Chapter 1: The Fire Triangle. Sabrina Woods had learned, by the age of 14, that love was not enough. It was a lesson delivered not in a single moment of heartbreak or betrayal, but in long, drawn-out dinners where the air itself seemed to vibrate with resentment. Her aunts and uncles had perfected the art of smiling while sharpening knives behind their teeth. Compliments arrived laced with barbs. Offers of help came with sighs so heavy they might as well have been curses. And yet, every holiday, every single one, someone would eventually turn to her and ask, "So, are you seeing anyone yet?" Sabrina, now 28 and no longer inclined to play along, stood in her kitchen the morning of the 4th of July and mentally rehearsed the answer she wouldn't give. No, she wasn't seeing anyone. No, she wasn't lonely. No, she wasn't afraid of commitment. What she was, and this part mattered, was intentional. She rinsed her coffee mug and set it in the drying rack with precision. Her apartment reflected her personality. Clean but lived in, warm without being cluttered. A place where everything had a reason for being there. She took her responsibilities seriously. Her job, her friendships, her time. She didn't volunteer herself for chaos, and she didn't accept being volunteered by others. Respect sat at the top of her list, immovable. "You cannot love someone you don't respect," she said aloud to no one in particular, because sometimes truth needed to be heard, even if only by the walls. She had seen too much evidence to the contrary. Her family members claimed love while dripping contempt like a slow leak no one wanted to fix. Sabrina had made herself a quiet promise years ago. If she couldn't have love built on respect, she would have peace instead. Her phone buzzed on the counter. "Maya, I'm outside, and I swear if you're not ready, I'm eating your funnel cake." Sabrina smiled, grabbed her bag, and locked the door behind her. The four of them had been friends long enough to stop pretending punctuality mattered. Maya drove because Maya liked driving. Tessa handled logistics. Jordan provided commentary. Sabrina brought snacks. They had agreed on a simple plan. Shopping during the day, a proper dinner somewhere with real chairs, and fireworks at night. It was the kind of outing Sabrina loved most. Not extravagant, not exhausting. Purposeful enjoyment. The shopping portion was loud, crowded, and full of opinions Sabrina hadn't asked for. "That top is too soft," Jordan declared. "How can something be too soft?" Sabrina asked, holding it up. "You'll want a nap. That's a trap." Sabrina put it back. Jordan had a point. They ate corn dogs standing up. Then pretzels. Then, because Sabrina believed in commitment once she started something, a funnel cake dusted so heavily with powdered sugar it left evidence on her shirt. "This is your fault," she told Maya, licking sugar from her thumb. "You say that every year. And every year I'm right." The day passed in laughter and easy conversation, the kind that didn't require performance. These were her people, friends who celebrated promotions and breakups with equal sincerity. None of them tolerated disrespect in relationships. None of them apologized for standards. By the time the sun dipped low, they claimed a patch of grass near the waterfront and settled in for fireworks. Sabrina leaned back on her elbows, content. Food, friends, a sky waiting to be set on fire. It was, by her estimation, a perfect evening. That was when chaos arrived in the form of a small child and a runaway glow stick. Sorry, he's faster than he looks," a man said, jogging over as a little boy skidded to a stop near Sabrina's feet. The boy grinned up at her. "Did you see that? It's green." "I did," Sabrina said solemnly. "Impressive form." The man laughed, breathless. He straightened, brushing grass from his jeans. "Thanks for not tripping him." "I respect commitment to momentum," she replied. That earned her a curious look. Amused, assessing. "I'm Daniel," he said. "That's Noah. His sister is over there pretending she doesn't know us." A girl about 6 stood a short distance away, arms crossed, clearly pretending nothing at all. Sabrina nodded toward her. "Solid strategy." Noah tugged Daniel's hand. "Dad, the sky's gonna explode." "That's my cue," Daniel said. He hesitated, then added, "Happy 4th. Happy 4th, Sabrina echoed. He left, shepherding Noah back toward his daughter just as the first firework bloomed overhead. Sabrina watched the sky light up, unaware she was smiling until Maya nudged her. "Well," Maya said lightly, "that was interesting." Sabrina snorted. "He had good timing. And kids." "Yes, I noticed. And you didn't run." Sabrina glanced back toward Daniel, who had lifted Noah onto his shoulders while his daughter pretended she didn't enjoy it. "Fireworks," Sabrina said. "They're distracting." But as the sky erupted in color and sound, she found her attention drifting. Not toward romance, not toward possibility, but toward something quieter. A man who showed up on time, who apologized without prompting, who respected boundaries without being told. Respect, love, commitment. The fire triangle. Sabrina leaned back, watching the sky burn beautifully, and wondered, not for the first time, what happened when all three elements existed at once. Chapter 2. A Man with a Schedule. The morning after the fireworks, Sabrina woke with powdered sugar still haunting her dreams and a curious sense of unfinished thought. It wasn't romantic longing. She would have recognized that and dismissed it on principle. It was more like an unresolved sentence. Pause without punctuation. She padded into the kitchen, poured coffee, and leaned against the counter while her phone lit up with messages from the group chat. Jordan, I would like it noted that I warned everyone about the funnel cake. Maya, I regret nothing. Tessa, also regret nothing. Except maybe that firefighter. Sabrina closed her eyes briefly. Sabrina, he was a man standing near fireworks with children. Let's all remain calm. Maya, you're the only person I know who can make that sound like a peer-reviewed study. Sabrina smiled despite herself and set the phone down. She wasn't going to overthink a single interaction. She had built an entire adult life by not doing that. Still, as she showered and dressed for work, she found her thoughts drifting back, not to Daniel's face or his laugh, or even the way he'd said her happy fourth like it mattered, but to the small things. He had apologized for his son running near her without being prompted. He had introduced his children instead of pretending they weren't there. He had left when it was time to leave, without lingering or posturing. A man with a schedule. Sabrina respected schedules. The cafe near her office was her midweek indulgence. She didn't go every day, routine was important, but so was restraint. Wednesdays were for good coffee and a pastry she didn't need. She was scanning the chalkboard menu when a familiar voice said, "If you're debating the almond croissant, don't. They sell out fast." Sabrina turned slowly. Daniel stood a few feet away, wearing a navy t-shirt and jeans, one hand hooked through the strap of a messenger bag. He looked less like a firefighter in daylight, less heroic, more real, the kind of man who paid bills on time. She lifted an eyebrow. "Is this professional advice or personal bias?" "Hard-earned wisdom," he said. "I learned the hard way last week." She ordered the croissant. They stood near the pickup counter, the conversation settling into something surprisingly easy. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said. "Same," he replied. "I volunteer nearby on my off mornings. Hospital's 2 blocks down." Sabrina's interest sharpened. Quiet but alert. "Volunteer. Children's wing," he said simply. "Rehab mostly. Stickers. Firefighter hats." She smiled before she could stop herself. "Of course." He glanced at her, curious. "Of course. Men who bring stickers to hospitals always do it like it's no big deal," she said. "As if they aren't secretly the bravest people in the room." Daniel ducked his head slightly. "I'm just filling time." "That's still a choice." He considered that, then nodded. They collected their orders and stood awkwardly for a moment, both clearly aware this was the point where things either ended politely or moved forward intentionally. Daniel broke the silence. "Can I walk you to work?" Sabrina didn't answer immediately. She appreciated the question, not the assumption. She checked her watch, mentally reviewed her schedule, and nodded. "Yes," she said. "That works." They walked side by side down the sunlit street, the air still warm with leftover summer. Daniel matched her pace without comment, another small thing she noticed. "So," he said, "I feel obligated to say this before it gets awkward later." "Promising start," Sabrina said dryly. "I have kids," he continued. "You met them. They're my priority. I don't date casually, and I don't have a lot of free time." Sabrina stopped walking. Daniel halted immediately, turning to face her. He didn't look defensive, just attentive. "I appreciate you telling me," she said. "I don't do casual either." He waited. "And I don't compete with priorities," she added. "If I say yes to something, I expect it to be respected. My time isn't flexible just because someone else's life is complicated." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Not amused, but relieved. "That's actually refreshing." "Good," she said, "because I wasn't auditioning." They resumed walking. "I'm divorced," Daniel said after a moment. "It wasn't dramatic, just wrong. We were good at surviving together, not great at respecting each other." Sabrina nodded slowly. "That happens. I won't do that again," he said. "For my kids' sake. Or mine." The words settled between them, not heavy, but solid. They reached her office building. Sabrina paused at the door, feeling the quiet hum of possibility without the usual anxiety that accompanied it. Daniel shifted his weight. "I'd like to see you again, if that fits." She smiled, really smiled this time. "Ask me properly," she said. He didn't miss a beat. "Would you like to have dinner with me on Friday evening? I can be free after 7. Sabrina checked her calendar in her head. "Yes," she said. "I would." They exchanged numbers. No lingering, no pressure, just intention. As Sabrina walked into her building, she felt something unfamiliar but welcome settle in her chest. Not hope, not excitement, respect. And she had learned long ago that respect, handled correctly, could start a fire all its own. Chapter 3, Dice, Stickers, and Boundaries. Sabrina did not plan her Thursdays around coincidence. She planned them around errands, deadlines, and a personal rule that said grocery shopping after work was a mistake best avoided. Thursdays were for efficiency, laundry, a sensible dinner, and maybe a book she'd been meaning to finish. Which was why she found herself mildly irritated when she realized the hospital parking garage was full and she'd have to circle twice before finding a spot. "I should have come tomorrow," she muttered, easing into a narrow space and cutting the engine. The donation drop-off was a one-time thing. Her office had organized a casual drive, children's books, puzzles, and used art supplies. Sabrina had volunteered without hesitation. Helping was not the same thing as overextending. This fit cleanly into her schedule. She grabbed the box from her trunk, balanced it on her hip, and headed inside. The children's wings smelled faintly of antiseptic and crayons. The walls were painted in bright, optimistic colors that tried very hard not to look like a hospital. Sabrina checked the sign-in desk and followed the posted directions down the hall. She heard the laughter before she saw the source of it. It wasn't adult laughter, measured, polite, restrained. It was the full-bodied, unfiltered kind that burst out of children when something delightful and unexpected happened. Sabrina slowed. Then she heard a familiar voice, warm and animated. "Okay, listen, no running. Dice is very fast, but hospital floors are faster." She turned the corner and stopped short. Daniel stood near the center of the activity room, crouched slightly as he adjusted a tiny red firefighter hat on the head of a Dalmatian wearing a custom vest. Dice. She knew immediately this had to be Dice. Sat patiently, tail thumping the floor with earnest enthusiasm. A semicircle of children surrounded them, some in wheelchairs, some perched on beanbags, all utterly transfixed. "And what do firefighters say when they go into a building?" Daniel asked. A chorus of small voices shouted, "Stay low." "Exactly," he said. "And what do we say to Dice when he wants to chase squirrels?" Dice let out a hopeful woof. "We say no," the kids replied, giggling. Sabrina stood frozen at the threshold, box forgotten, watching a scene she hadn't expected and hadn't prepared for. Daniel wasn't performing. He wasn't exaggerating or putting on a voice. He was simply present, focused, patient, treating each child like their attention mattered. A nurse caught sight of Sabrina and approached quietly. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to drop off donations," Sabrina whispered, suddenly aware that this was not a moment to interrupt. "Oh, perfect timing," the nurse said. "You can leave them right over there." Sabrina followed her instructions, setting the box down carefully. When she turned back, Daniel had finished adjusting Dice's hat and was now distributing stickers with solemn ceremony. Dice spotted Sabrina then. His ears perked, his head tilted, his tail accelerated into a blur. Before Daniel could stop him, Dice trotted over and sat directly in front of her, looking up with clear expectation. Sabrina stared down at him. "You are very handsome," she informed him. Dice wagged harder. Daniel looked up, startled, and then broke into a grin. "Well," he said, standing. "This explains why he's suddenly abandoned his post." "I didn't bribe him," Sabrina said. "Yet." Dice leaned against her leg, satisfied. "You volunteer here?" she asked Daniel. "Thursdays," he said, "when I don't have the kids." The phrasing landed exactly as intended, clear, honest, without apology. "I had no idea," she said, "that I volunteer or that Dice has questionable loyalty." "Both," he laughed, scratching Dice behind the ears. "This is Dice, firehouse mascot. He thinks everyone is here exclusively for him." "Understandable," Sabrina said. "I feel the same way about funnel cake." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You're consistent." A nurse approached with a clipboard. "We're about to start physical therapy for a few of them. Dice, you ready to walk?" Dice stood immediately, all business. Daniel glanced at Sabrina. "I should." "Of course," she said. "Don't let me interrupt." He hesitated, then said, "Would you like to stay?" "You don't have to. No pressure." Sabrina considered it. She hadn't planned to stay, but nothing about this felt intrusive or manipulative. He was offering, not steering. "I have time," she said. Daniel nodded once, appreciative. "Okay." She watched from a respectful distance as Daniel guided Dice slowly alongside a young girl taking careful steps between parallel bars. He offered encouragement without hovering, jokes without distraction. Sabrina felt something shift, not excitement, not fear, but recognition. This was a man who understood boundaries not as walls, but as structure. After the session ended, Daniel walked Dice back to his mat and returned to Sabrina. "Thank you for staying," he said. "Most people get uncomfortable." "I didn't," she replied. "It was good." They stepped into the hallway together. "I should be honest," Sabrina said. "Seeing you here changes things." Daniel stopped, facing her fully. "Good or bad?" "Clarifying," she said. "You're not just someone with responsibilities. You choose them." His expression softened. "So do you." She nodded. "Which means I need to say something before Friday." "Okay," he said, attentive. "I don't rush," she said. "I don't blur lines. If this becomes something, it happens deliberately or not at all." Daniel didn't interrupt. "And I won't be absorbed into someone else's life without consent," she continued. "I won't be an accessory. I won't be convenient." He smiled, not defensive, not surprised. "I wouldn't want you to be," he said. "I'm not looking for someone to fit into my life quietly. I'm looking for someone who chooses to be there." Sabrina exhaled slowly. "Good." They stood there, the hum of hospital life passing around them, the moment solid and unhurried. Dice barked softly from behind them. Daniel glanced back. "He approves." Sabrina smiled. High standards, that one. As she left the hospital, Sabrina realized something important had happened. Not attraction. Not romance. Alignment. And for the first time in a long while, she found herself looking forward to Friday. Not because of potential, but because of certainty. Chapter 4, The Weight of Yes. Sabrina did not get dressed for dinner the way she had in her 20s. There was no frantic changing of outfits. No texting friends for validation. No standing barefoot in front of the mirror questioning her entire personality. She selected her clothes with the same care she applied to everything else. Intentionally, comfortably, and without trying to sell a version of herself she couldn't maintain. Black wrap dress. Low heels she could walk in. Hair down, makeup minimal. She checked the time once, locked her door, and left. Daniel was already waiting when she arrived. Not pacing. Not scrolling his phone. Just standing near the entrance of the restaurant, jacket folded over one arm, watching the street like someone accustomed to being alert without being anxious. He smiled when he saw her, not wide, not performative. Genuine. Hi, he said. Hi, she replied. He opened the door for her, not theatrically, just as a matter of course. She noticed that too. The restaurant was warm and understated, the kind of place that took food seriously without demanding reverence. They were seated quickly. Daniel waited until Sabrina sat before taking his own chair. So, he said once menus were in hand. Thank you for saying yes. Sabrina tilted her head. I don't say it lightly. I gathered that. They ordered drinks. Conversation flowed easily, but not superficially. Daniel asked questions and waited for the answers. Sabrina noticed he didn't interrupt to relate everything back to himself. A small thing. A rare one. Can I ask something? He said once their food arrived. You already are. He smiled. You talk about respect the way most people talk about chemistry. Because chemistry is cheap, she said calmly. It's reaction without intention. Daniel considered that, cutting into his food. What happens when chemistry and intention line up? Then you pay attention, she said. Carefully. He nodded. That tracks. They talked about work, her role, his schedule. He didn't glamorize his job. He spoke about it like something meaningful but demanding. My kids come first, he said again. Not as a warning this time, but a statement of fact. Anyone I let close needs to understand that. I do, Sabrina said. But understanding doesn't mean disappearing. No, he agreed. It means negotiating honestly. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. Halfway through the meal, Daniel hesitated, then said, I want to be clear about something else. Sabrina met his gaze. Go ahead. I'm not looking for a replacement mother, he said. And I'm not looking to rush anything. I won't introduce my kids to someone unless it's stable. She smiled softly. I wasn't worried. But thank you for saying it. The waiter cleared their plates. Dessert menus appeared, unrequested. Daniel glanced at it, then at Sabrina. I won't assume. She laughed. I appreciate that. But yes, dessert. They shared something chocolate-heavy and indulgent. Sabrina took her time with it, unhurried. When they stepped back outside, the night had cooled. Daniel walked her to her car without touching her, without crowding her space. At the door, he stopped. I enjoyed tonight, he said. I'd like to see you again. But only if you feel the same. Sabrina smiled, warm and certain. I do, she said. And I appreciate how you ask. He exhaled, just slightly. Good. He didn't kiss her. He didn't push. He waited. She leaned forward and kissed him. Brief, deliberate, and exactly right. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Sabrina. As she drove home, Sabrina felt grounded rather than giddy. She had said yes. And this time, yes felt like a choice she could stand on. Chapter 5, Fire Drills and Fault Lines. Sabrina noticed the shift the way she noticed most things. Quietly, without drama, and before anyone else seemed to name it. It wasn't something Daniel did wrong. That was the problem. It began with small adjustments. A dinner moved 30 minutes later. A call shortened because one of the kids had a rough day. A reschedule that came with a careful explanation and an apology that sounded genuine. Sabrina accepted all of it. She was not unreasonable. She understood responsibility. She respected parents who showed up. What she did not accept, what she never accepted, was assumption. They had been seeing each other for just over a month when the first real fault line appeared. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind that usually belonged to Sabrina alone. She was halfway through making dinner when her phone rang. Daniel. She answered with a smile in her voice. Hey, he said. He sounded tired, but not stressed. Quick question. She paused, wooden spoon hovering. Okay. I'm on a double tomorrow. My sitter just backed out for Friday night, and I was wondering if we could move dinner to Sunday. Or, he hesitated, then added, if you'd be open to coming over instead. Just something low-key. Sabrina set the spoon down. She didn't respond immediately. Not because she was angry, but because she was thinking. I can do Sunday, she said finally. But I won't come over. Daniel went quiet. Not defensive. Processing. Can I ask why? He said. You can, she replied evenly. And I'll answer. She leaned back against the counter. We agreed not to blur lines. I'm not ready to be folded into your home life yet, and I don't do low-key as a substitute for plans. He exhaled slowly. That's fair. It is, she said. And I want to be clear. I'm not punishing you for having kids or a job. I'm protecting the pace we set together. I didn't mean to rush, he said. I know, Sabrina replied. Which is why I'm saying this now. Another pause. Then, Sunday works. Thank you for being honest. They hung up politely, respect intact. But something lingered. The following weekend brought family. Sabrina had already steeled herself. Her mother's house was loud in that familiar, exhausting way. Too many voices overlapping. Too much forced cheer. Plates clinked. Someone argued about parking. Someone else commented on Sabrina's hair. So, her aunt said over salad, voice deceptively casual, "Are you still seeing that firefighter?" Sabrina didn't look up. Yes. And? Her uncle prompted. And what? Well, her aunt continued. You're not getting any younger. Sabrina finally raised her eyes. I'm 28, she said calmly. Not perishable. There were a few nervous laughs. Her mother shot her a look. They're just curious. They're being invasive, Sabrina corrected. There's a difference, someone else chimed in. Isn't it complicated? With his kids, Sabrina set her fork down deliberately. Everything worth doing is complicated. Her aunt sniffed. You know, compromise is important in relationships. Sabrina smiled politely. So is self-respect. The table went quiet. Later, as she helped her mother with dishes, her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Daniel, how's the family thing going? She stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back. Sabrina, about as expected. Passive aggression with a side of potato salad. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Daniel, you want to come over after? I've got the kids, but we could. Sabrina closed her eyes. This was it. Not a crisis. Not betrayal. Just a moment where patterns revealed themselves. She typed carefully. Sabrina, no, but thank you for offering. Let's talk tomorrow. She put the phone face down and finished the dishes. They met the next evening at a quiet park halfway between their neighborhoods. Daniel arrived first this time, hands in his pockets, posture open but tense. Hey, he said. Hey. They sat on a bench facing the water. The air was cool, the kind that encouraged honesty. I want to talk about something, Sabrina said without preamble. I figured, Daniel replied. And I'm listening. She appreciated that, no jokes, no deflection. I need you to understand something, she said. When plans change, I don't mind. When priorities shift, I understand. But when alternatives are offered without checking whether they work for me, I feel absorbed. Daniel nodded slowly. That wasn't my intention. I know, she said. Intent and impact are different things. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've spent a long time adjusting to other people's needs. I think sometimes I forget to pause before assuming flexibility. Sabrina studied him. He wasn't excusing himself. He was owning the pattern. I'm not asking you to stop being a father, she said. I'm asking you to remember that I'm not a convenience. I don't see you that way, he said immediately. Then show me, she replied gently. He looked up at her. Really looked. Okay, tell me what that looks like. She smiled faintly. It looks like asking. It looks like not replacing plans with proximity. It looks like respecting my no without trying to reroute it. Daniel nodded. I can do that. And I need to know, she added, that if this becomes harder, if our lives don't align neatly, you won't expect me to shrink to fit. He took a breath. I don't want someone who shrinks. I want someone who stands next to me. The words landed. They sat there for a moment, the tension easing. Not disappearing, but settling into something workable. Daniel finally smiled. A little crooked. You're the first person who's ever called me out without trying to leave. Sabrina returned the smile. I don't leave over solvable problems. He reached for her hand, slow enough that she could stop him if she wanted to. She didn't. As they stood to leave, Sabrina felt something solidify. This wasn't romance built on fireworks or fantasy. It was a controlled burn. And if they handled it right, it wouldn't destroy anything at all. Chapter 6. When the alarm sounds, the call came on a Thursday afternoon. Sharp and sudden. Like most things that mattered. Sabrina was halfway through reviewing a report when her phone buzzed against her desk. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Not a text, not a casual check-in. A call. She answered immediately. Hey, I'm okay, he said before she could ask. His voice was steady, but she could hear the tightness underneath. Everyone's okay. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Sabrina straightened in her chair. Hear what? There was a fire this morning, he said. Apartment building. Electrical. We got everyone out. But, he paused. It shook the kids. More than usual. Her first instinct was to offer to come over. To insert herself, to help, to be useful. She didn't. Instead, she said, thank you for telling me. Do you want to talk about it? A breath left him. Yeah, I do. They talked for a few minutes about the fire, about how Noah had clung to him afterward, about how his daughter had gone quiet in that way that meant she was processing something bigger than she wanted to admit. I won't see you tonight, he said finally. I don't have the bandwidth. I understand, Sabrina said and meant it. I'll be thinking of you. He hesitated. Can I ask something? Yes. Would it be okay if I called later? Not to fix anything. Just to hear your voice. Her answer came without calculation. Yes. They hung up, the connection clean and intact. The alarm sounded again 2 days later, this time metaphorical. It came in the form of a voicemail from her mother, left while Sabrina was at the gym. I don't mean to interfere, her mother said, which Sabrina had learned was always a preamble to interference. But I'm worried you're settling into something complicated. You deserve something easy. Sabrina listened to it twice, then deleted it. Easy had never built anything worth keeping. That evening, Daniel called as promised. They talked about nothing urgent, work, a movie he'd half-watched, a ridiculous argument his kids had about which superhero would make the best firefighter. I didn't know how much I needed normal tonight, he admitted. You're allowed to need it, Sabrina said. There was a pause. Can I be honest? She smiled softly. I'd be disappointed if you weren't. I'm scared, he said. Not of you, of failing again, of bringing someone into my life and not having enough to give when things get hard. Sabrina leaned back on her couch, staring at the ceiling. This is the part where people usually reassure each other, she said slowly. Tell each other it'll be fine, that love conquers everything. And you're not going to do that, he said, not accusing. Observant. No, she said. I'm going to say this instead. I don't need you to be limitless. I need you to be honest about your limits. He exhaled. I can do that. And I don't need to be protected from difficulty, she continued. I just won't be erased by it. There was a long silence on the line, not uncomfortable. Considered. Would you still choose this? Daniel asked quietly. If it stays complicated? Sabrina didn't answer right away. She thought of the hospital, of Dice, of conversations that didn't dodge the truth, of a man who asked instead of assumed. Yes, she said, as long as we keep choosing it deliberately. He laughed softly. You really don't do anything halfway, do you? No, she said. I don't see the point. They said goodnight without ceremony. When the call ended, Sabrina sat for a moment, letting the quiet settle. This was the test she had always believed in. Not passion, not timing, not chemistry, but pressure. And under it, nothing had cracked. Chapter 7. Teaching the kids. Sabrina did not meet Daniel's children because it was time. She met them because trust had quietly made space. The invitation came the following week, offered without ceremony and without expectation. Daniel called on a Sunday afternoon. His voice relaxed in a way she had come to recognize as earned. The kids and I are going to the park, he said. Dice is coming. No agenda. No pressure. If you'd rather not, I understand. Sabrina didn't answer immediately, not out of hesitation, but because she was checking herself. She had always believed that children deserved honesty above all else. They noticed things adults pretended were invisible. They deserved adults who did not drift in and out of their lives carelessly. Yes, she said at last. I'd like that. Daniel didn't sound triumphant, just pleased. Okay. The park was loud with late afternoon energy. Soccer balls thudding against grass, parents calling names, the occasional shriek of laughter. Dice announced his arrival enthusiastically, drawing attention and delight in equal measure. Noah spotted her first. That's her, he said, pointing without subtlety. The lady from the fireworks. Sabrina smiled and waved. Hi. His sister, Emma, she remembered now, studied her with a seriousness that felt familiar. Assessment before engagement. Daniel knelt between them. This is Sabrina. She's my friend. Not girlfriend. Not anything loaded. Friend. Sabrina appreciated that more than she could say. Hi, Emma said politely. Hi, Sabrina replied. Your dad tells me you're very brave. Emma shrugged. Sometimes. Noah was already petting Dice. He likes her. I know, Daniel said, amused. He has opinions. They walked together along the path, conversation easy but careful. Sabrina didn't ask personal questions. She didn't try to impress. She listened. When Noah tripped, she waited, letting Daniel handle it, stepping in only when Emma needed help tying her shoe. Later, as they sat on a bench sharing snacks, Emma looked at Sabrina and asked, Are you staying? The question was quiet, but it landed. Sabrina met her eyes. I don't stay places where I'm not wanted, she said gently. And I don't leave places without saying goodbye. Emma nodded, satisfied. Daniel watched the exchange with something like awe. After the kids ran off to play again, he turned to Sabrina. Thank you. For what? For not trying to be anything other than yourself. She smiled. Children respect honesty. They can tell when adults are pretending. So can you, he said. Yes, she agreed. As the sun dipped lower, the kids tired themselves out. Dice collapsed dramatically in the shade. Emma leaned against Daniel's side. Noah chattered about superheroes. Sabrina watched them, feeling neither out of place nor absorbed, just present. When it was time to leave, Daniel walked her to her car. "I meant what I said," he told her. "I won't bring people into their lives unless it's stable." "I know," she said. "That's why I said yes." He hesitated, then asked, "And how do you feel now?" She considered it honestly. "Respected," she said. "By all of you." He smiled, something warm and sure settling into place. As she drove home, Sabrina realized something important. Love didn't announce itself loudly. It taught. It listened. It stayed consistent. And sometimes it started with simply knowing how and when to show up. Chapter 8, Extra Credit. Sabrina had never minded family gatherings. She minded family expectations. There was a difference, and she had spent years learning how to navigate it with calm efficiency. How to redirect conversations, how to deflect commentary disguised as concern, how to leave early without apologizing. She had mastered the art of being present without being consumed. This time, she wasn't going alone. The invitation came from her mother, phrased as usual, nothing fancy, just dinner, which Sabrina had learned translated to opinions will be served. She accepted without hesitation and told Daniel afterward, not as an ask, but as information. "You're welcome to come," she said over the phone. "No obligation." Daniel didn't answer immediately. "I'd like to," he said finally. "If you're sure." "I am," she replied. "But I need you to understand something before you say yes." "Okay. This isn't a performance," she said. "I'm not bringing you as proof. I don't need to be validated by being chosen." There was a pause, then a quiet laugh. "Good. Because I don't audition." She smiled. "Then you'll fit right in." Dinner was exactly what Sabrina expected and slightly worse. Her aunt commented on Daniel's job within 5 minutes. Her uncle asked pointed questions about schedules and how that works with kids. Someone mentioned timelines. Someone else mentioned compromise again, as if it were a magic word rather than a skill. Sabrina answered where she felt like it and ignored what she didn't. Daniel did not interrupt. He didn't dominate the conversation. He spoke when asked and deferred when appropriate. When someone directed a question about their relationship solely to him, he glanced at Sabrina before answering. A small thing, powerful one. At one point, her aunt said, "Well, relationships are about sacrifice, dear." Sabrina set her glass down. "They're about mutual respect. Sacrifice without respect is just erosion." Daniel nodded. "I agree." The table went quiet, not hostile, just startled. Later, as dessert was served, her mother pulled Sabrina aside into the kitchen. "You seem settled," her mother said carefully. "I am," Sabrina replied. "And you're sure this isn't complicated?" Sabrina smiled softly. "It is, but it's honest." Her mother studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "You always did know your own mind." "Yes," Sabrina said. "I worked hard at that." When they left, Daniel walked her to the car. The night air was cool, the house lights dim behind them. "You okay?" he asked. "I am," she said. "Thank you for not rescuing me." "I wouldn't," he replied. "You don't need it." She leaned into him then, resting her forehead against his chest. "Do you know what extra credit is?" she asked. He smiled. "Enlighten me." "It's what you do after you've met the requirements," she said. "Not because you have to, but because you want to." Daniel kissed her hair, gentle and certain. "Then I'm in," he said. Sabrina smiled, feeling steady and chosen. Not by accident, not by pressure, but by intention. Chapter 9, Fireworks, rewritten. The second time Sabrina watched Fireworks with Daniel, she noticed how quiet everything felt. Not empty, settled. It was the following year, close enough to Independence Day that the city had already begun to hum with anticipation. Food trucks lined the waterfront again. Children darted between blankets. Someone nearby argued cheerfully about where to sit. History echoed softly, but it didn't repeat itself. Daniel arrived with Emma and Noah in tow, Dice prancing proudly in his vest. Sabrina greeted them easily, like someone who belonged without effort. She had brought snacks. Daniel had remembered extra napkins. The kids had opinions. "Last year the blue ones were better," Noah announced. Emma corrected him. "No, the gold ones." Sabrina smiled. "Let's see if they surprise us." They found a spot on the grass and settled in. Emma leaned against Sabrina this time without hesitation. Noah passed her a bag of popcorn as if this were the most natural thing in the world. Daniel watched it happen, something thoughtful in his expression. "You okay?" Sabrina asked quietly. He nodded. "I just keep noticing things. Good things." "Yes," he said. "The kind you don't want to rush past." The first firework exploded overhead, bright and deliberate. The crowd oohed on cue. Sabrina leaned back, the night air cool against her skin, and let herself take stock. This wasn't dramatic love. There had been no sweeping declarations, no reckless gestures. What they had built instead was quieter and sturdier. Respect practiced daily. Love chosen deliberately. Commitment honored without performance. The fire triangle, complete. Halfway through the display, Daniel shifted closer. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he said. Sabrina turned her head. "Okay." He didn't reach for a ring. He didn't kneel. He simply looked at her, eyes steady. "Would you consider building a life with me?" he asked. Not fast, not perfect, just intentionally. Sabrina didn't feel surprised. She felt calm. "Yes," she said, "as long as we keep choosing it the way we have." He smiled, relief and warmth blending together. "Deal." The finale lit the sky in rapid bursts, gold, blue, white, echoing across the water. The kids cheered. Dice barked enthusiastically at the noise. Sabrina watched the colors bloom and fade, thinking about how much she had learned. Love wasn't found. It wasn't stumbled into. It was built carefully, respectfully, and with both feet on the ground. Daniel squeezed her hand, not possessively, but securely. And this time, when the fireworks ended, nothing felt unfinished.